Let me read to you a passage from the 20th chapter of St. John's Gospel, verses 11 to 18. It's the Gospel for Easter Tuesday. St. John writes, Mary stood outside the tomb weeping. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white, seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head, the other at the feet. They asked her, Woman, why are you weeping? They have taken my Lord away, she said, and I don't know where they've put him. At this, she turned round and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. Woman, he said, why are you weeping? Who is it you are looking for? Thinking he was the gardener, she said, Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him. Jesus said to her, Mary. She turned and cried out in Hebrew, Rabboni, which means teacher. Jesus said, Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, I have seen the Lord. And she told them that he had said these things to her. That's from John chapter 20, verses 11 to 18. What does this suggest to us? Well, let me begin this way. One of the famous evangelical writers of the 18th century in England was John Newton, from 1725 to 1807, the Anglican evangelical author of the well-known hymn Amazing Grace. Newton published the story of his conversion in his book entitled Authentic Narrative, published in 1764, which quickly achieved popularity and went through numerous British and American editions and was translated into other languages as well. Many regarded it as Newton's best work, and it made him an international figure within evangelicalism. It was the story of how, as Newton summarized his life on his tombstone, once an infidel and libertine, he was by the mercy of Christ preserved, restored, pardoned, and appointed to preach the faith he had long labored to destroy. I have visited Newton's tomb in the churchyard of Olney in Buckinghamshire in England. His well-known conversion was triggered during a storm at sea in 1748, when two great issues of his conscience finally burst upon him: his many sins deserving of eternal punishment, and, importantly, in this context, the truth of the gospel. Much could be said of his newly acquired sense of sin, but what was just as important was that he became utterly convinced of the objective truth of the gospel. It was the inspired record of real facts. This sense of the objective truth of the Gospels, based on objective historical facts, is of fundamental importance in the Christian religion. The religions of man are imbued with myth, which is to say, with the story. In the Gospels, the myth is objectively true. It really happened at a certain date and in a certain place. One of the greatest novels of the 20th century was Lord of the Rings, the powerful fantasy written by the Oxford philologist Professor Tolkien. It is said to be the second best-selling novel ever written. Tolkien was profoundly interested in myth. He was a close friend of C.S. Lewis and was a major influence on his conversion to Christianity, although Lewis embraced Protestant Anglicanism rather than Tolkien's Catholicism. One of the things which Tolkien taught Lewis was the importance of myth in literature and religion. Importantly, he taught him that however positive was myth in all of religion, the distinctive thing about the myth about myth in revealed religion, in Christianity, was that its myth is true. This sense of the objective reality of the objects of the Christian religion is a key feature in Christian conversions, or it should be. The genuine Christian realizes that the dogma of the one only God, creator of heaven and earth, is true. This God is real. Cardinal Newman taught that it is the conscience that brings this home to people. Whatever be the way one comes to realize that God, Christ, the incarnation and the atonement, the divine element in the church, the Christological meaning of the sacraments are all objectively true, it is precisely this which is all important. We must come to appreciate that Jesus Christ is a real, objective, living person. The one who possesses all authority in heaven and on earth, the one who died for our sins and rose again to bring us divine life, is real and living. He is an objective, though unseen, fact. If a person understands this, then he has passed an important line. Now all of this brings us to our gospel today from John chapter 20 verses 11 to 18. Within a day, the foundation of the lives of Christ's disciples seemed to have been destroyed. Jesus was suddenly gone, snatched from them in a series of sudden and immensely brutal actions. He was no more. At best, the prospects were that he would become a mythical figure, a mythical memory, the stuff of religious legend, a powerful story to be told and retold, an ideal of fantasy rooted in a limited historical setting. Myths of this kind are common. Comic books have been written in countless numbers developing the myth of some past figure. Take the myths of Buffalo Bill in the United States, Wyatt Earp, Wild Bill Hickok, Ned Kelly in Australia, and many other past figures, good and bad. There was a past basis to them, but the more the past is looked into, the more the myth deflates. The story is not objective, rather it reveals the culture which produced it. In the case of religious myth, it reveals the religion that produced it. But the case of Jesus Christ is radically different, and what made all the difference was his rising from the dead. He lived, he died, but he rose again in the flesh, now though glorious. In our gospel today, Mary Magdalene is filled with the sorrowful thought that he is dead. She asks the gardener nearby where he might have laid him so as to take him away. But wonder of wonders, it is the risen Jesus who stands before her and quietly calls to her, Mary. The news spread, and the same living, tangible, real and objective Jesus met others. He is no mere story, no mere myth. The distinctive thing about the extraordinary story of the gospel, which is what will be brought to all the nations, is that it is objectively true. The resurrection is an objective fact, and this is what gives to the Christian religion its distinctive character. Especially in this sense is the Christian religion distinctive. Its mysteries, so high, are objective realities, rooted in the objective reality of the risen Jesus. Because he is truly there, all that he has revealed to us is truly out there. It is not just the gradual effusion of the religious yearnings and imaginations of the people or the peoples. It happened. It exists. And what will come will exist too.